So Intercreative are joined by David, Ken, Robert and Russell from the Bluebells to discuss the tracks on their influential album Sisters, which has just been remastered and re-released in a variety of formats via Last Night from Glasgow. So I've got, this is a battered 1984 edition.
Yes.
Still going. And here's the one that's just been re-released. Fantastic. So I guess the first question I've got, the album artwork is pretty cool. And I do notice there's a couple of subtle changes from the original. You maybe just want to let us know a little bit about how that work came to be. You know, what
Robert, you do that.
The main change was I wanted to bring Russell and Lawrence back into the front of the cover. The main gist of this one was to make it back to the year it was done, 82 really, 83.
Original band.
That was the way we wanted to do it, you know. So they're on the front for that reason. And also, that's the only change in the front. And on the back, that we took off a kind of like a porn picture that Pete Barrett had put on.
Pete Barrett's the co-designer
of the sleeve, yeah. And next to that now says The Flowers of Romance Are Blooming. That's a Bluebells review from a fanzine. And next to it is Charing Cross. And from that, I took off, there's a kind of like a picture of Pete Barrett's family tree, really, there, of all the friends from
We just reclaimed it, made it our own. There's a lot of pictures of our parents on it as well, isn't there?
Yeah. So that's basically the only changes, really. And inside the sleeve on the vinyl, we took out the Bermondsey Pete kind of like thing. So that's all really that we've changed.
Beautiful.
And then we got the obviously up to date. Asked Perfides to do the
sleeve
notes. And then on the CD, Stephen Pastel did some nice sleeve notes as well. And there's a new collage.
A new collage, yeah.
New photographs.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Excellent. So, side one, first track, Everybody's Somebody's Fool. Tell us a little bit about it.
Well, we changed that track because none of us, well, me, Ken and David, I don't know, Russell, did you play that, Russell?
I much prefer this version,
the new version, the first version, basically when they compiled the album, we had hundreds of versions of every song, so we had 20 Young at Heart's you know, something like 15 Everybody's Somebody's Fools. So when we were away on tour in Germany, the record company compiled the album, and it was a marketing guy that did it. We weren't there. So it was all the wrong mixes, or mixes that were just sounded really, you know, we weren't really that pleased with. So there was a really smooth version, which was done by Colin Fairley and what do you call it?
Bob Andrews.
Bob Andrews. It was a bit Shakin' Stevensy, and we hated it. So when we came back from this tour, we were like, "What the fuck is that?" The good versions with, you know, that we enjoyed with the strings, and you know, and with Russell and Lawrence and all that, they were nowhere to be seen. So it was a bone of contention for us for years.
This version kind of sounds quite like, it sounds like we sound like.
Yeah. Much more representative of the sound that we had. Authentic. It's very much more authentic now than one.
So we're very happy with that. The new version. That's probably one of the biggest changes on the album. But it's a great opener. You know, it's a really good one.
Yeah, it is absolutely fantastic. All right, great. And then obviously second track, Young at Heart. I suppose just a question for me, just to kick that one off. Now, obviously, I know Bananarama covered it, recorded it first, but was it always intention that you would also do it, or was it a case that you heard it and thought you could maybe do it differently or whatever?
Well, I wrote it for them just when we were in scholarship on at the time, and we decided to. They were doing. Siobhan hadn't written a song before. She wanted to try and put some songs on an album. So I was kind of helping. She did things like Cheers then, which I didn't. I helped her do it. Help just helped them try and get together her ideas for songwriting. Because she was very into songwriting, and Young at Heart was just like we were trying to do it as a Northern Soul song. But as soon as I heard it, the way that Jolene Sweeney did it, we started rehearsing it because I was showing the guys how it went, and as soon as Dave started playing the drums and Laura started doing the bass, it was already better in my head than it was on the Rama version. So we did it live a few times, and I think there's a version of us on Switch doing it live, and it just sounds fantastic. We had Gavin and Arthur playing the brass section, Russell singing, and then also,
Mickey Two Ties on keyboards.
Rap Two Ties, and then
Rap Two Ties.
And Record Company really liked it, but and they wanted to do it. We did a version of it at Park Lane, but we never quite got the same sound at Park Lane, and by that point we were kind of like I was experimenting in my head with doing it like a Bob Dylan track, I Want You, that kind of feel. And when we did it in Inverness, as soon as David started playing the kind of brush drums and Laura started doing these kind of jokey bass line, we knew it was something really, really good right away.
More of a country shuffle.
Yeah, and as soon as we started playing it, and we knew it was really good, and we got Billy Brenner come along and did some picking on it, which really, the whole track lifted up.
Yeah.
It was just sounding fantastic as an instrumental. And once we started singing, and Ken started singing it, it just had a life of its own. And then we put on, next time we put on was marimba. They put on some marimba, like a kind of like I think it was a Red Bus. But we were going to put a fiddle on it. We just didn't know who the fiddle player was going to be. It was going to be a violin part. It was always going to be kind of like a jiggy jig, and Roger Ames was obsessed with these big.
Roger Ames. See, when we're mentioning people's names, like see who they are. Roger Ames
was an A&R man, and he was obsessed with. He had a big hit with Dexys, and he's obsessed with the idea of having a violin in it again. And we were friends with Dexys anyway. We stayed with them in this kind of guest house in Kilburn, and so we're quite into having the fiddle on it, and so that's how we left a space for it when we did the recordings. And then in Inverness, the guitar part, we got in on guitar, we got in on harmonica, but we knew that as soon as we had the violin, we knew that was going to fit in exactly. Yeah.
Well, the version on the Switch, probably the kind of Northern Soul version, which we had in between the Bananarama version and the country version, is actually probably better than the. Do you know what I mean? But it wouldn't have been as big a hit. As the country version, because I think the country version appeals to your granny, your auntie, your wee sister, it's universal. Whereas the Northern Soul version is actually a bit cooler. It's a wee bit like the Style Council before the Style Council.
Yeah.
Somebody the other day there called us the Council style. I thought was quite funny.
It's interesting though that the song is open to different interpretations. I mean, we've got about 3 or 4 different versions. Not that we're a karaoke band, but we did experiment with different styles, and we were into like sort of Midnight Cowboy soundtrack and a lot of Dylan stuff. So
great point.
Rootsy.
Yeah, we did that. We did that with Damon Life, which is coming up. I mean, that was a raw deal punk song, So that's a very different version we've done as the Bluebells, and I'm not saying it's better, but in my opinion, but as soon as we did that with Elvis, as soon as that came along, we knew we had something with that right away. As soon as we got the acoustic guitars out and Ken singing his hushed voice, So it's good.
I think with Young at Heart, it's a sign of a classic song, though, the fact that it lends itself to so many different interpretations. It's just
that's
a classic song.
There's a ballad out just now, some girl called Rachel Barrer, an Irish girl who's done a sort of big ballad version of it. And as Russell says, I think a good song, if it's like a good song, basic structure of a song, if it's good, it can work in all different. You could do it. We did a brilliant reggae version of Young at Heart. It was absolutely brilliant.
Yeah. It was to a lover's rock, wasn't it?
Yeah.
A lover's rock band did it.
That girl's version is lovely. Rachel, what's her second name?
Rachel Barrer.
Rachel Barrer. Yeah, it's
R-R-O-R.
just piano ballads.
That
It sounds a bit like
of Young at Heart, but it's great.
Thanks for that. Moving on to track 3. Again, you know, another big tune, I'm Falling.
You're sweating now, but wait till the winter
idea, it was like 2 different songs. So Robert had quite a complicated structure, which was more complicated than we usually did. And I had kind of half a song verses. So we put them together, and we put Robert's quite complicated structure together, and then I slotted in my verses, and they worked well with Robert's chorus.
Because the chords I was using, Ken was virtually the same chords that he was singing for his song.
So it was one of the first.
And you go, Russell?
Do you want to mention as well about how you got the start bit of that? Remember the start intro, which was kind of influenced by Buffalo Springfield a bit.
Expecting to Fly was the sort of string part. We used to play that in the van all the time, those kind of songs. A lot of the things we played when we were traveling around actually come out on the album, not lifts from the songs. A lot of production bits that we were really into.
Yeah, absolutely.
We mentioned the marimba there for David, but that was like Under My Thumb, do that kind of sound we're looking for.
Yeah.
So it's just little bits of that. I think a lot of bands would do that. And at the end of I'm Falling was another song I was working on at the time, and I just thought, well, when we were doing it in the studio, I just thought that fits over that as well, because the chords were just on Ken's bit, the chords are half time, and on the end bit it's the same chords but just played double the length. So so it's just nice to have the coda on it. We're really fond of codas a bit. All of us.
So it's kind of like layers and layers, and it just builds and builds. That song keeps changing.
It's really interesting. They just played it on. They had a thing A to Z on Brian Burnett's program on Radio Scotland. He's got a theme every night. It was St Andrew's Day, the A to Z of Scottish music, and they picked I'm Falling for B. So A was the Associates, B was the Bluebells. But I listened to it in the car there. It sounds great, and it never gets boring, because there's always something interesting coming around the corner. It's great. It just lifts. And there's loads of layers and harmonies and stuff. But that was great working on that. It was something different.
It's good when they play the full version now, as they do now. But remember, it used to be they would fade it out too early, and you're like, no.
Oh, he faded it out quite early because the best bits of the.
I sometimes, on telly, they would sort of like make a really quick edit and they would fade it out really early. But I'm Falling doesn't really work unless you hear the whole structure, and especially the kind of outro section.
It went straight from the chorus to the singing bit at the end. There was no.
It's quite a long song. It's about 4.5 minutes. So usually the fader's going down and for the adverts coming in.
Quite interesting though, the fact that it's been 2 different songs and you've, basically brought that together.
Yeah, I was just it was right. I think I'd been working on that at the time, and Robert had that, and it just seemed right.
We did it again later on for it. We'll talk about it later, but we did it again for Learn to Love. We did it the sake of different songs put together. I think it works really well on that too.
Russell, comments? I'm Falling. Particular memories.
I've got a funny one about I don't know if they ever mentioned this about when it came out. I was in the kitchen with my mum and dad, and it was the first time I was on Steve Wright in the afternoon.
Yeah.
And I was like, Mum and Dad, let's see, they're playing this I'm Falling. And halfway through the record, he took it off. He says, I don't know why I'm playing this record. It's rubbish.
Really?
And I was like that with my mum and dad, the big moment. And
that's great.
Everything he said about it was completely rubbish.
Yeah.
But it was a weird thing. I've never seen that happen before.
I've
never told you that story.
I wish I had that.
Steve taste, right?
Yeah. I don't know why I'm playing this song.
Yeah.
The next one, one of my personal favourites, Will She Always Be Waiting?
Sleeping on slivers, the cold wind of winter's chill. Silent she shivers and dreams of the warm summer hills. She would only open her eyes what was there and learn how to care. She's got so much to learn, I'm sure that she can. Or is that too much to hope for? That much is there. Will she always be waiting? Will she always be waiting? Will she always be reflections are bitter, all frosted and covered in ice. She prays they'll forgive her, she'll never pay their price. If she'd only open her eyes, she would see what was there and learn how to care. She's got so much to learn, I'm sure that she can. Or is that too much to hope for? That much is there. Will she always be waiting? Will she always be waiting? Will she always be waiting? Will she always be waiting?
That had quite an evolution too. We used to do that. It was called wishful thinking. We used to do that quite fast, didn't we, guys? You know, it was quite a fast kind of like. So it's actually on Excel and Tree Street. You know,
What was that? What was that called at first? It wasn't always called that.
wishful thinking.
Wishful thinking.
Yeah. And then as we caught up with Elvis and things at that point, you know, something with Elvis, it had already changed by that point into more of a like a. Because I remember thinking, I can't just play these chords all the way through the song. It was just A to E, E to A to B, back to A, up and down, you know. So I thought I better put more chords in, and that became like the "Will She Always Be Waiting." But we were trying to do that like the Walker Brothers. Me and Ken, I would, you know, like it was. I actually think it works quite well as that, you know. When I get to the chorus and then Ken kind of takes over, you know. So I quite like
the best thing about that was I remember sitting in the studio in amongst the orchestra. Yeah, so there was this like a 16-piece orchestra, and I sat in the middle of it. It was fucking amazing. It was absolutely brilliant.
Beautiful. That was the Who's studio, wasn't it? The Who's.
Yeah, what was that called again?
Not Rack.
It was the Who studio.
Jam, no, not Jam. It was a.
Good Earth, Rat Rack,
Not
Olympia.
back
I
on
can't
to
remember.
Battersea Power Station.
Oh yeah,
No.
yeah. It was, what was it called again? That place. And it became. Thank God it's Friday Studios. It was a TV studio now. Remember, right on the river.
Robert, back onto that the EAB thing you're talking about though, the simple. That's a total hook though. I think that simple guitar thing is a hook.
I liked it, but I just wanted to make it. I just wanted, at that point you start to get all these ideas. You can write songs. You know what I mean? And and Elvis was filling ahead with all these, putting us all these cassettes and things, and trying to point us in directions. You know, so it's just maybe a progression from that.
It's definitely one of your best vocals.
I like
the
it.
vocal on it.
I remember singing it. I remember. I was singing it. I remember we've all done it, you know, in the studio with headphones on and no one around you, you know, a great microphone, and it's a really nice feeling, you know.
But I think on that, I think that's really important with when we're working with Elvis Costello. He was really good at showing us how to use microphones.
Yeah.
You know, like microphone technique and how to get guitar sounds and amplifiers and all that, because he's a bit of an aficionado on it.
I can remember
basically
Elvis
saying to me,
playing
Robert, okay, so sing across it like that, because you picked that fucking thing like that. You know what I mean?
I can remember Elvis playing the guitar part, because he laid one of the guitars down and that big blue ovation.
Yeah.
EAB, but the way he played it as well was kind of amazing. You know, simple, but it's like there was something he did in it. And
he did the organ too, remember Russell? He played the organ on it, which was great as well, you know.
And it was that kind of almost that backwards rhythm that he was playing, isn't it?
Yeah. Oh, where's Kenny gone?
Lovely.
I think he's rebooting.
Yeah, hopefully he'll dial back in. So I get, you know, Kenny was just mentioning there about Elvis Costello, just, you know, wee hints and tips. I mean, you know, how invaluable did you find that, you know, as a up and coming band at the time, you know, in the studio, and, you know, picking up these things from him?
I think it was amazing. I think there was I think it was that whole element of trust there. You know, you just totally, he was just very authentic. He was never patronizing. We'd spent a lot of time with, like, you know, producers and, you know, a lot of guys that were just a bit kind of egocentric producers, you know, and they were the king and we were just a bunch of wee guys, and you had to listen to them, you know, kind of authoritarian. And so we had a few bad experiences with some people, but it was amazing when we met, you know, Elvis, and just even the way that before we even get into the studio, you know, he got us to make tapes, basically like mixtapes.
Yeah.
He said, I'd love to hear what are you into, guys? So we all made a mixtape each, and he listened to that, and then he would sort of listen to it, and he'd be like, oh, you like this? Or, oh, Russell, you liked...
We were on tour with him at the time, and he'd take us one at a time. You're like, each of us made a tape, and he'd take one of us at a time during the sound check and go through the tape we made.
Yeah, that's right.
That was privilege. Just as Elvis Costello is just going through my mixtape.
Totally.
So he was getting a picture of what we were about, you know.
Yeah. Totally interested in all our backgrounds, what we're listening to, and some tracks he'd never heard, and a lot of tracks he thought, I never thought you'd be into that. Really? What is it about that track that you enjoy or that you like? So he got a whole profile of all of us in a really natural way, really kind of genuine guy, and that whole trust built up. So by the time we got into the studio, brilliant. You know, there was just a great kind of chemistry.
I wasn't a particularly versatile player at the time, and Elvis was brilliant. He took his time. You know, he could have all the parts I played. He could have knocked them out. Because every now and again you change your part. So it would take me a bit of time to kind of learn the part. And he was really patient, you know, understood that it was important that the guys in the band played the instruments sort of thing. So for me, that was brilliant.
Absolutely.
Little Beatles tips and
totally.
stuff.
Even things like also, just when you're saying about that, Russell, I bet you personally, we could all have different angles on it. But even things like, you know, click tracks. I mean, the early 80s, as a drummer, the early 80s was all about, you know, you had to play like a drum machine, and you had to play like perfectly in time, and you don't slow down. Elvis was actually like, no, you've got a good feel, you know, saying to me on the drums. He's like, no, keep that. And he would give you advice. He would go, what about this? Giving us a wee bit more energy here, or what about dropping the energy here? you know, but basically he loved just the way that, you know, that I played as a drummer, and I thought, brilliant. So he coached you. He also could identify your strengths, which was great.
Yeah. So I'll just go back to that beginning before I get cut off. So we're kind of nasal because we speak from our throat, okay? And so are Scousers. He taught us how to sing from our stomach. Sing from our stomach, and he showed some breathing exercises and stuff. And then mic technique. So when we were talking about will she always be waiting, Robert was told to breathe, sing, but you're always breathing. So don't try and sing it too hard, because when you're doing a lot of touring and you're singing live, you're trying to project too much, and it doesn't sound good recorded. It sounds hard. It sounds hard. So he was getting us to soften it.
Yeah, and often coming from that sort of punk background, you know, like Ken and I were in punk bands, and you would just sing really hard because you're trying to shout over the guitars and that wall of like distortion.
Yeah. Then the next track is actually wasn't on the original. Some Sweet Day.
Some sweet day, I'm gonna hear you say everything will be okay, okay. Some sweet days, everything will be okay. You'll see things the way that I do. What did you say? Ain't got the time. What game is this to play on me? Your trusted friend. So slip your reins and shed your chains. You're too wild to tame. What did you say? Ain't got the time. What game is this to play on me? Your trusted friend. Some sweet some sweet day, some sweet day. I'm gonna change your mind. I'm gonna change your mind. I'm gonna change your
Some Sweet Day. Some Sweet Day was one of the tracks. It was, I think it was a extra track in a 12-inch or something like that.
It was extra track on the Sugar Bridge double EP.
Yeah. So, and that didn't really do that much. It didn't really sell an awful lot. So we thought it's too good to lose. And it was one of Elvis Costello. It was a beautiful production, really smooth. And the good thing about that song is it kind of sews up, because there's quite a lot of different production styles. It kind of sews up. It gives it a wee bit of a feel for an album. You know what I mean? It sews up the album. It gives it a kind of continuity.
Yeah.
I think the song was one of the earliest songs, Robert.
Yeah, it was. That was just like it. Yeah, we did that a bit. That was the second demo we did at Hellfire.
Yeah.
Good point Ken made earlier on too. That this Elvis sang in this one, and
we sang with him. Me and Dave sang with him. We did
you really hear his vocal. It's lovely with our vocal. You know, he really gave it. You know, it really gives it a good deep.
I remember singing the backing vocal with him, and the microphone's here, and I'm kind of quite near the microphone. He's about fucking 20 feet back.
Yeah.
His voice is massive.
Huge
Absolutely
voice,
massive. He's got a huge big barrel chest, so his lungs are like fucking bellows. You know,
right.
massive.
That bit of you and Elvis doing this sort of singing reply.
Yeah.
That's what you call. That's a darling part. It's a darling part.
Lovely, yeah.
Bands.
Yeah.
Three, three.
Come,
Yeah.
son.
And I love the wee Tijuana trumpet as well. That's brilliant.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's lovely. Yeah.
Good idea.
But that was great.
I love
That really
feel.
helped. It helped give continuity. It sounded really like the band at a certain period of time as well. So
Yeah.
Quite
Yeah.
authentic from the early days. Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's a great addition. Absolutely. And then I guess closing side one, Cath, which again, you know, another huge song.
So weary and cold, I'm set to the core of all your lying, and I will have no more. Too tired to care. No emotion to spare. I ran and raved and screamed and slash and tear. Cat, oh, it takes a lot to make me laugh. Oh, you led me up the garden path. Oh, it takes a lot to make me laugh. I'm shaking with fright, and nothing's going right. You spoiled my day for the rest of the night. Cat, oh, it takes a lot to make me laugh. Oh, you led me up the garden path. Oh, so just forget about it, all I'm saying is enough is enough. Can't take a joke, then lady, that's tough. Oh, lady, that's tough. Enough is enough. Enough is enough. Enough is enough. Enough is
I thought we kind of recorded the kind of backing track with this with Elvis, and then he was off for a couple of days.
Oh, we did it all one day ourselves. Yeah, Elvis was
We do it
off.
all, did we? Right.
Yeah, the whole day, because we were sitting there and Colin Philly said Elvis has not come in today. I think he had some laryngitis or something like that, or some
Right.
bug. And then we said we're going to just play it, mess around in the studio ourselves, just because the game was all set up, you know. And we started doing a Cath. And it just, you could tell as soon as we started playing it, it was going to be, it was a great feel.
Yeah.
So
I think at
Had we demoed
that
that
time,
before? I can't remember.
I think at that time we were really hot
yeah,
because we were really enthusiastic. We were really up for it, and we were disappointed that Elvis couldn't make it that day.
Yeah.
And we were right up for it, and
Yeah.
we recorded it. And Elvis was gutted the next day when he came in. He was gutted because it sounded so good. He was like, "Well, I can't do it."
Probably that on the kind of wave that he was kind of building.
yeah,
Like, right, he's not there,
We
but what-
particularly loved that
what-
song at the time as well.
yeah.
Russell, what are you saying?
I was just saying, we all particularly loved that song at the time as well.
Yeah.
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 It's a
There's
good
something
song
about
live.
it.
live job. We were playing live and it was getting great reaction. But what we did different on it was, again, we did. I don't think we did have a coda at it. I mean, we made the coda up at the end. We were messing about with Maggie May, but I just had a laugh at it because it wasn't really like, you know, it was. We didn't feel any pressure at all. You know.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So we felt we could do anything on it. Like at the end, we didn't even the words and things like the words haven't changed during that day, but the words in the song all the way through were always going to be a piss take of that kind of dramatic, action song. You know, I mean, you know, so we had great fun. And I think when we finished doing it, we all knew that it was really good. I remember that night, Roger Ames saying that night, "This is a great recording," you know, even because we said to him right away, you know, and he was thinking, "This just sounds great," you know. So we're on a winner right away there. It didn't really affect the Elvis working with us, but I think it affected Roger Ames's. I think he thought that Some Sweet Day was a hit too, but we'd done it too. The way we did it before was quite catchy and quite funky, a bit like we did Young at Heart, quite a lot of like rhythm guitar, and I think he thought, "Oh, what have you done to that song?" Because Roger just thought of singles. Roger Ames, the A&R guy, he just thought of singles all the time. You know, it was always every song had to be a single. You know?
I think the reason Some Sweet Day wasn't released as a single was because we were up against all this really, really tight electro pop.
Yeah.
Depeche Mode and all that stuff, and it was really fucking bang in your face. Whereas it was maybe too subtle.
Yeah.
It would have been a brave
subtle
move,
to compete with that. You know, it was beautiful. I love Some Sweet Day. It's one of my favourites, but. You know, of our band, because it sounds like our band. You know, it's great.
Russell,
it is amazing that it was, as you say, sort of given away as an extra track in Sugar Bridge, you know, and
I know it's fucking
with that quality.
Yeah, unfortunately, a lot of our B-sides were better than the A-sides. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
People used to say that B-sides are better than A-sides. Yeah.
I think you know, Cath, I think, is quite universal as well. You're saying that about Young at Heart, but I think King Creosote's done a version.
Yeah,
Is that right? Yeah. Which again is, you know, it's quite interesting and, you know, different.
Yeah.
I asked King Creosote to put forward a record for. I run a label at the college called Electric Honey Records, and we've got an imprint called Route 8 Records, and we were mapping the music of Scotland. So we had Pakistani music, African music, you know, like Italian music, all different people who live in Scotland. It was to try and get this kind of universal Scotland vibe, and it was called Welcome. Okay, and I asked him to give us a song, but I think he kind of picked us up wrong. He did a version of Cath and gave it to me, so I couldn't put it on the album because it would look like nepotism.
Yeah,
you know, because it's a student project. But it's fucking brilliant. It was absolutely brilliant. And I was like, I can't put that in the record because it looked like, Ken's putting, you know, a record that he's part of on a fucking record. So I couldn't put it on it without being called out. So we just left it for a while. Then Robert heard it and then it was like, that's fucking brilliant. And it was absolutely brilliant.
Yeah.
And you know the background that Kenny Creosote was a fan, and he saw us the first time he saw us, he was 14. Oh, yeah. He was 14 and he came up with, was it a van, a couple of mates, and one of his cousins in a van or something. They drove up to Arbroath. They drove up to Arbroath to see the Bluebells, and he said I think it was his pal or his cousin had to sneak him in because it was like a license place or something. He was only 14.
We had to sneak you in as well, Dave.
Loved it. I was probably about 16.
Yeah. So he came up in the bus. He's got this big thing about coming up on the bus from the East Nuke, from Anstruther. And it was that, you know, the big stagecoach bus that were right up the East Coast.
Yeah.
And it's got a huge big window. So he had he stole his brother's Walkman, which was de rigueur at the time, and he had the tape. He bought the tape, and he just said it was amazing. It was like watching a film. Right. So it really stuck in his head. And then we played that night a Young Socialist thing, a fundraiser. I think it was still Free Nelson Mandela at that time, actually. Anti-apartheid thing. And there was hardly anybody there. There was about 30 people, but he was there. Yeah. But we didn't know he was there. We didn't know it. It was years later he told us he was there.
Yeah. It's amazing, isn't it?
You know, and it's funny, we ended up playing that song with them together at the Fens Collective Festival they have in Anstruther.
All right. Home game,
yeah. And we put it together on stage. I've got a version of that. It's really, really good. You don't know the entry, but I mean, he plays a accordion. He sings it. You know, he's a really great singer, really great. Really
Aye.
Big talent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely. Okay, Magic. So that's side one done.